welcome to my channel, and today I'm going to be going through some of my favourite retellings, as retellings seem to be quite popular at the moment and I am loving them so much. So at the end of this video, if you do want to recommend me some that I haven't mentioned, that would be fantastic. So the first one I want to mention is Alice by Christina Henry, and this is quite obviously a retelling of Alice in Wonderland. And what drew me in was the cover. I saw this in Waterstones and I thought that cover is amazing, and it looks a bit horror-y, if that's even a word, but this is basically like a horror retelling of Alice in Wonderland. Basically Alice is in a lunatic asylum and it ends up burning down and she runs away with a young boy. They run into Old Town where they meet a Cheshire Cat who is a wizard, and then they meet lots of different characters such as the Butterfly, who is basically a pimp who does awful things to his girls, like he sews butterfly wings on the backs of them. They also meet the Rabbit, who is also a wizard, and then they also meet the Walrus, who wants to be a wizard and he wants to eat this special girl who ends up being Alice. So basically he eats women but rapes them, because if you eat this girl they will get powers of a wizard. Some bits are quite chilling, but it does its job and it is really good. I basically read this in a day because it is just so amazing. There is also a sequel, Red Queen, but it's not as good as Alice. I think maybe stick to Alice, maybe read Red Queen if you're interested. I'm also going to mention Christina Henry's latest novel, which is Lost Boy. Now this is a retelling of Peter Pan. I've been looking for a Peter Pan retelling for ages and this is just the perfect one. Again, it's kind of horror, but it's not as bad as Alice. It's not as disturbing. Basically this is not a retelling of Peter Pan, but it's basically how Captain Hook became to be. So basically Captain Hook, or James as he's called back then, he was the first boy Peter Pan brought to the island, and he's been there for what seems like hundreds of years and he hasn't grown up yet. So he's seen boys come and go. Peter Pan just kind of kills off the boys when he gets bored of them. It all starts when Peter Pan brings a young boy who's only about 6 years old, and James is like, that's way too young, and he kind of becomes a father figure for this young boy called Charlie. And then of course a girl gets brought to the island, and it's all this thing about James being a father figure to the boys, and the boys kind of becoming more in awe of James than Peter, and then they all start to grow up when they lose faith in Peter Pan. It's all really good. Again, I read this in about a day because Christina Henry's writing is just amazing, and I really hope she does some more retellings of Alice in Wonderland, Peter Pan, maybe do some more retellings of fairy tales that aren't as retold more. That would be really good, and I really hope she does bring out some else soon. I am going to mention another Alice story, and that is just called After Alice by Gregory Maguire. Now this is a retelling of Alice in Wonderland with a difference. This focuses on Alice when she goes down the rabbit hole, but it also tells the story of her nanny and her sister up above trying to look for Alice when she's gone down. It's also interesting because Alice's family, they are hosting an evening with Charles Darwin, so it's all about that, set in Victorian times. It is very interesting. But what Gregory Maguire is probably most famous for is his retelling of The Wizard of Oz in Wicked. This book basically inspired the hit musical and my favourite musical of all times. And what I love about Wicked is that it's basically the life and times of the Wicked Witch of the West. So it shows her from when she was young, how she was bullied at school, how Glinda was the one who basically focused all the bullies on her, and how Elphaba and Glinda became best friends. It's all about basically, are people born wicked or are they made wicked? And I think that's a really good quote from the book and the musical. 4 books altogether in the series, and it just builds on the whole Oz theme. You know, you get to learn so much more than you do in The Wizard of Oz. And even Dorothy turns up in this one, and she turns up in the last book out of Oz as well. And I just think it's great, the characters, and Glinda herself, you get to see her after the witch has been killed, and yeah, I just can't sing my praises enough. Next one is a very popular retelling at the moment, and that's The Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J Maas. So this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and that's the main reason why I picked this book up, because I do love Beauty and the Beast and I haven't read many retellings, even though it is quite a popular one. But this one called to me because it's in a fantasy setting. Fairy is an archer, lives in the human world, and she accidentally kills a wolf, which turns out to be a member of the Spring Court in this fae world. Tamlin, the head of the Spring Court, basically holds fairy prisoner as punishment for killing his soldier. And in that, Tamlin and his whole spring court is cursed to wear these masks of beasts by this crazy evil ruler, because the fairy world has loads of problems at the moment, and it's basically all about that. Fairy has to show her love for Tamlin to break the spell and break Aramantha's curse. And that follows on to my favourite retelling, and that's A Court of Mist and Fury, which basically follows up 6 months after A Court of Thorns and Roses. Now this is a retelling of Hades and Persephone, if that's how I pronounce it right. Basically, in A Court of Thorns and Roses, Fairy meets Rhys, who is the ruler of the Night Court, and she makes a pact with him that if he helps save her and Tamlin, he can take her to the Night Court every now and then. I think it might be once every month. And in the end, he ends up basically stealing her and holding her hostage in the Night Court. But if you've read this book, you know it turns out a lot different from that, and I think everyone knows about this book. Basically, Fairy does end up falling in love with Rhys and they become mates, and it basically turns whole Hades and Persephone myth on their head, and I just love it so much. Now on to a recent release, and that's Flame in the Mist, and this is a retelling of Mulan that is set in Japan instead of China. And I love this so much. As soon as we heard about this book, I think everyone knew we were getting a strong female character, which she is. Mariko is her name, if I pronounced that right as well. And even though she is a strong character, she is quite naive at first, but that's because she's learning about the world. And basically this follows Mariko when she's on the way to marry the Emperor's son, but her litter gets attacked by what is believed to be the Black Clan. When she's being attacked, she hears people saying that they must kill her, and she decides to infiltrate the Black Clan to work out who wants her dead and why they've gone about doing it. And it's such a good book. It's got magic, it's got everything, it's got protective brother, and the ending in this is so good. I cannot wait for the sequel. And then the next one is a retelling of my favourite Shakespeare play, and that is Hag-Seed by Margaret Atwood, and this is a retelling of The Tempest. So I decided to buy this as, like I mentioned, The Tempest is my favourite Shakespeare play. I went to see it live at the Globe and it was amazing. And basically this is just so good. This follows Felix, who is basically kind of like the main man in a festival, a theatre festival, but he gets sacked by someone he trusted. So he goes to work at a prison and teaches Shakespeare plays to them. Now his favourite is The Tempest, and he went for this job because he knows there'll be a way of getting his revenge on his so-called friends. Basically he starts to teach these prisoners about The Tempest, and then at the end of the year they do a little play at which his enemies are invited. And basically what's so good about this is that because he's teaching the prisoners about the play, you learn so much about the play itself. And the way Felix goes about creating his own Tempest is brilliant as well. Margaret Atwood, this is the first book I've read by her, and I really do think I need to read more of her writing. So yeah, those are a few of my favourite retellings. Like I mentioned before, if you do have any more, just a comment down below. Especially I do want to read some retellings of like maybe Greek myths, you know, like Hades and Persephone, and I do love my fairy tale retellings as well. So feel free to comment down below. So as usual, you can like this video or subscribe to my channel, and I'll also put all my social media down below, so feel free to follow me on that. So I will see you later with a new video. Bye!